What if we built a bridge from Earth to the Moon? Imagine setting off on a journey, but not just a road trip across the state. Instead, picture a bridge stretching all the way to the Moon. A family outing where, instead of turning at intersections, you're heading straight up for about 384,400 kilometers. But what would this lunar highway actually look like? Let's break it down step by step. The materials we'd need, the forces we'd have to deal with, and just how much coffee we'd need to pack for such a long haul. First obstacle, the forces tearing the bridge apart. To begin with, let's assume our bridge doesn't immediately collapse. Physics has this thing called gravity, which pulls on anything stretching out from Earth. Earth's gravity pulls the bridge downward, while the Moon's weaker pull tugs in the other direction. Essentially, we'd be battling a cosmic tug of war. To handle this, the bridge would need materials that can resist both compression and tension. Here's the problem. Earthly materials, no matter how strong, would likely object to the lack of support in space. Without anything to hold up their own weight over such vast distances, even the sturdiest cables would fail. Alright, what about carbon nanotubes? Suppose we use something super strong like carbon nanotubes. These tiny structures can bear loads much greater than steel and are incredibly light, making them perfect for space. But here's the catch, they're only useful at microscopic sizes. Building a moon bridge out of nanotubes would be like constructing a skyscraper out of spaghetti. Not ideal. Even if we could somehow scale up nanotubes, the bridge would still be mind-bogglingly expensive and require trillions of kilometers of these tubes. Each thread would be just a few atoms thick, meaning weaving the bridge would take decades. And don't even get me started on the traffic jams. Logistics issue. Where do we put the charging stations? Let's imagine we've actually built the bridge. Now, we face another issue. Where do we place fueling stations? Covering 384,400 kilometers is no joke. You can't simply pull over and refuel like on a highway. We'd need to design stations for cosmic fueling and sprinkle them along the way, every few kilometers, to provide rest stops where travelers could enjoy the space views. Problem number 3. Meteorites flying at 70 kilometers per second. At this height, the bridge would be bombarded by meteorites. Picture this. You're on your way to the Moon, admiring the Earth from afar, when, wham, a meteorite punches through the bridge, tearing up a section several kilometers long. These space rocks travel at about 70 kilometers per second, way faster than any Ferrari. One impact, and a piece of the bridge could start free falling. To prevent this, we'd need to armor the bridge with protective panels to absorb and disperse the impact, like a cosmic shield. But adding this armor would double the bridge's weight, which would, again, skyrocket the project's cost. The Terminator, not a robot, but a huge temperature shift. And finally, there's a big issue. The bridge would need to cross the Terminator line, the point where night and day meet on a celestial body. This line cuts through our road, leading to drastic temperature shifts, from minus 150 degrees Celsius in the shadowed area to plus 120 degrees Celsius in the sunlit parts. Our bridge would have to be thermally stable to avoid cracking in the cold or melting in the heat. A more realistic idea, the space elevator. Since building the bridge seems almost impossible, sorry, dreamers. Let's look at a more realistic option, a space elevator. The concept is simple. Imagine a cable anchored to a satellite in geostationary orbit, with an elevator that could transport people into space in a few hours, rather than a rocket. Sure, it wouldn't reach the Moon, but it would still get us into space. This project is much more feasible, as the chances of a cable holding up are much better than a massive bridge. So, if your dream of a lunar highway doesn't work out, you can still say, well, at least we have an elevator to space.